Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Crystal Baker, and I'm the founder of 412 Training Group. We help faith based organizations with their operations so you can serve your communities and congregations better. By the end of January, we are going to transition from serving predominantly just all churches to specifically serving women in ministry, women who serve congregations in their communities. What I found over the last year and a half was majority of the clients were women, and they were seeking some sort of assistance and resource outside of what their pastor or their church were providing to them. So we decided to shift our focus and really serve the women who lead congregations, who serve in their communities through not being nonprofit founders. And through that, working with clients, I found a lot of common things amongst the organizations I work with. I'm a strategist, so I'm helping with strategy, making sure you have the right frameworks to manage the resources that God has given you. And one of the things, the major issues in churches and nonprofits, it's money. We know in Proverbs, Ecclesiastics, money is the answer to all things. We know that, but not all the times we are intentional about how we manage our money, how we budget it, what other streams of income that we need in order to sustain the ministries and the nonprofit organizations that we have. So tonight, we have this topic called dollars and cents. And yes, cents is not spelled in the sense as far as coins, it's cents in the fact of we want you to make sense of how you are managing money, how you are putting folks in place who are managing your organization's money. And because I believe in the power of partnership, I never want to do things by myself or alone. I really value the power of partnership. I partnered with Nique Shepherd of CFO and Associates, and she's going to come on and really bless y'all lives. So I hope you get a pen and paper. If you're driving and listening to this, watch the replay, take some notes, share it with your nonprofit founder as well as your pastor. So that way you all can really, really get your finances in order for 2024. So I'm going to bring Nique on, and she's going to share with you all. And then I'm going to come in after her and talk about some operational things you can do to sustain the things that she's mentioning to you from a financial standpoint. Nique, how are you?
Hi, I'm fine. How are you?
Good, good. I'm going to turn it over to you. But before I turn it over to you and disappear for a few seconds, just introduce yourself and share with people who you are and what it is that you do.
So my full name is Nique Shepherd. I go by Nique, the CFO. I am the founder of CFO and Associates. So I am an accountant. I handle financial books and budgets, all that fun stuff for nonprofits.
Awesome. So again, I hope you all are get your pen and paper or put in your mind to come back to the video. It will be on our YouTube channel as well. If you are an associate pastor, executive pastor, if you're over the church finance and you need some support with, hey, we need to make some changes, or you are part of a nonprofit organization and you need your founder to really listen to these things, or you are a founder and just don't know what to do in regards to money, I want you to really take your time and listen. In the comments, if you are on Facebook, there is a pinned comment that has the discovery call information if you want to connect with Nique for your financial needs and strategies. And then there's a link for me to help you with your operational and systems needs. All right, Nique, I'm about to turn it right over to you.
All right. Well, hey everyone. So tonight we are going to dive into financial management. A lot of nonprofits and churches kind of struggle with this. So whether you are a seasoned leader in the industry, whether you are new to the role that you're in, having your finances together is very, very important. And it has to align with your mission. So the first thing I do want to mention is budget management. So we know when it comes to grants, when it comes to anything financial for a nonprofit or church, we need a budget, and it has to be well planned out. It's more than just numbers on the spreadsheets. Like we really have to follow the budget. So whether it's for programs, for different departments in your nonprofit or church, everything needs a budget. Point blank. Period. And when you go into that budget, it has to be detailed. So when I say detailed, how are we running this program? What do we need for this program? As far as whoever's over it, how many facilitators you may need, how many volunteers you may need. Do you need uniforms? That should be in the budget. If you give out stipends, that should be in the budget. Um, However many families you serve, let's say you're doing a food drive or anything, how many families you serve and how much is that going to cost you? So that budget is very, very important to have. Um, Another one that I want to talk about is different revenue streams. A lot of people, when it comes to nonprofits and churches, they either tend to solely depend on the congregation. Sorry, y'all, my braces and wisdom teeth is messing with me. But they depend on either those donations from the congregation, and for nonprofits they usually try to depend on grants. When you can do things like fundraising, you can do things like going to outreach, owning a nonprofit. um, it's kind of like sales. So you have to go to these corporate offices like, hey, this is my program. This is what I'm trying to do for the community. This is how you can help. You want to be very detailed about those things, and diversify your revenue. So, like I said, fundraisers, corporate grants, foundation grants, donations. Even if you do different types of marketing. It don't have to always be in person. It doesn't have to be social media. Um, but yeah, different streams of revenue in that way. Another thing I want to add is um, building a reserve fund. And I say that because we have a lot of emergencies that can happen. So this reserve fund is gonna, just be in the back. So in case say we can't make payroll because a grant didn't come in. So you want to keep that reserve fund there. Um, Another example, for the reserve fund, let's say something happened to the building that you're in and you got to get it fixed, and insurance doesn't cover it. So that reserve fund is there. Another one I want to talk about is cost control. And a lot of businesses, on top of nonprofits and churches, we kind of spend a lot. We kind of spend a lot, and we want to try to cut back on that spending. So sometimes we can utilize volunteers. It is okay. It is completely okay to have volunteers. It is completely okay to rely on them as well when it comes to certain things. So if you're doing a food drive or any type of giveaway, it actually cut costs when it comes to the overhead. So even donations cut costs. You wouldn't have to come out of pocket of too much stuff, and you're still helping the community. The next one I want to talk about is financial transparency. So uh, it's good to build trust. Be clear, honest about the financial reportings. Not only does it meet legal requirements, but it also strengthens the relationships with your donors and community. So a lot of times they want to know where the money is going. So in order for them to see that, you have to keep up with your financial books. Um, so if you're using QuickBooks, Applos, whatever, Zero, make sure you're very honest. You know, the financial reports for a nonprofit usually is public information. So be very, very aware of that as well. So just keep being honest when it comes to your finances. Another one I want to speak on is compliance and legal requirements. So staying informed about tax obligations, reporting standards, any type of changes that helps you avoid, messing up the integrity of your nonprofit or church. So with nonprofits, we know the tax exempt status. We know we're all supposed to get that. However, it does not cover you for each state. It's a federal thing, but it does not cover you for each state. And I say that because we're supposed to have solicitation license in each state that we ask for donations in. So let's say you are based in Georgia. That's where I'm at. Say you're based out here in Georgia and you want to go to Florida to raise funds for your program. Go to Florida, you try to host a fundraiser, you have to get a solicitation license depending on what you're trying to do. You have to get a solicitation license in Florida to ask for donations there. And if you end up, let's say, opening another location in Florida, you have to create a foreign nonprofit in that state. So keep that in mind. um, Another thing I want to add is investment in technology. I know a lot of times we feel like something costs too much. Um, and I can agree. I can agree. It's very good to be like, okay, that might be too much. It's okay to budget. However, some of these softwares we do need. Someone we do need. Like if you're growing and growing, if your nonprofit is bringing in a lot of revenue and you had a lot of going on, you got to track, you got to do fund accounting. Let's say you had Wave cannot do that. You will have to invest. It's okay to invest in like QuickBooks or Applos. Applos is actually my favorite when it comes to nonprofits and churches. So in that one, you're able to text to give, and they have fund accounting, they have budgets in there, they have a lot going on in that software, and it's built for the nonprofit and church world. So it's very important to invest in a technology that you need, especially to grow. Um, Even with HR systems, a lot of people feel like they don't need it. You need it. If you have employees, even contractors, you still want to have some type of HR system in place. Um, the last one I want to add on is training and education. So, training and education, um, we always want to stay on top of things as far as, learning about the nonprofit or the church world and whatever development to education that you need in those areas. So uh, it helps with making informed decisions when you do have the proper education, the proper training. And it's also good to outsource if you can't do it. It's okay to hire somebody else to do it. But training and education goes a very, very long way. I feel like I skipped one. I feel like I skipped one. Which one did we? I think we skipped one. Oh no, we didn't. Did we? I don't know. I don't think we skipped one. Wait. The budget, revenue, reserve fund, cost control and reduction, financial transparency. I'm looking at the comments. Compliance, investment in technology. Oh no, we didn't skip one. Um, no, we didn't skip one. So did anybody have any questions about that?
And if you don't, you can get them ready because a lot of the things that Nique was sharing, going in as a trainer or as a consultant, people want to do the sleight of hand when you're coming and consulting them. They don't want you to look at this over here. I need you for this because this is so bad. But when I look at everything from a holistic standpoint, I'm like, ooh, um, this is not just this. When I look at the whole continuum of your organization, this is the root cause of it. What you're telling me to train you on or answer questions on, that's just a symptom of what's really going on underneath. And a lot of times when, I'll go into organizations, they say, I want to grow. I
Mm-hmm.
want my church to grow. And so I'll say growth is relative. Are you trying to grow by number, the number of people coming to church every Sunday? Are you trying to grow by finances? You want a lot of money? Or is it spiritual with nonprofits? Are you trying to, get more donors, more clients that you're assisting? You want more corporate sponsor. When you say growth, what is it? And when it kind of all ties to money, I realize they're not even in a financial um and a healthy financial space to even get the abundance that God has for them. So they're praying, Lord, give an increase, but you're not even a good steward because you may or may not have a lot of the things that Nique mentioned. If you don't have them, that's perfectly fine. That's why we're here.
Mm-hmm.
Or you have them and you don't want to fully be accountable because then it's going to, show what you're not doing or you're feeling bad. And so on YouTube, Ladelphia said, how do we obtain funding? So for me, when I'm working with nonprofits, they'll say, oh, I need funding. But then when I look at the structural organization, when I look at they don't have a budget
Mm-hmm.
or they don't have at least good reporting mechanisms to run reports on profit and loss or
Mm-hmm.
what's going on, who's their most consistent donors, who's the highest
Mm-hmm.
giving donors, you're not even in the position to obtain funding because depending on the funding source, they may want your organization to have a most recent audit.
Mm-hmm.
And many churches or nonprofits don't even have financial controls or reporting mechanisms or their finance department set up in order to even provide those things to a funder. Or they'll say, hey, we need a program or a project. You're doing events, but you can, finesse that. I won't even say finesse because to me, finesse is called scammer. So you can create a program that's tied to your event. So I'm going to kind of reiterate some things, or not reiterate, but just kind of get some operational things from the what I've been seeing to show you how what I'm seeing as a consultant is what Nique is saying you need to have in your organization. So budget management. Again, people want funding. They need more offering. They need more this or that. And I'll say, well, how much does it cost to run your church? And they have no idea.
No
All
idea.
they know is they have to pay the mortgage or the rent. They got to pay the light and the water and the gas. They
Mm-hmm.
haven't even gotten into the women's department put on this type of event every year. The children is doing this. The men are doing that. We have benevolence. You're not even thinking about the different operational departments where you need to allocate budget. Um, and so the budget management of things, there's no management of the budget because there is no budget.
Mm-hmm.
It's like how people live paycheck to paycheck. Churches are living from Sunday to Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
Nonprofits are living for as long as that grant money is coming in without even thinking about what are some other funding sources for this program or this project. So A lot of that goes into really being strategic. I always tell people to employ your weaknesses. And
Mhm.
Nick mentioned something about outsourcing. Outsource, outsource, outsource. You may say, I can't afford it. You can afford not to outsource.
Mhm.
Outsource help you to achieve your goal quicker. So if you have Sister Patty or Brother Joe in the finance department at church, or Lily working the family's nonprofit because y'all want to give back to the community, they may or may not be educated in how to properly manage. And that's where Nick mentioned with about training development.
Mhm.
You may need to outsource someone like Nick to say, okay, I'm going to help get your stuff in order and do the bookkeeping. And you're there because you're local. You can do the day-to-day stuff. But you need someone with some experience to help, to really, really help you. One of the other things that I see with besides budget management is the revenue streams. Whew. Some churches is trying to squeeze blood out of a turnip. And sister, Agnes, she on fixed income. She can only give so much, but she love her church.
Mhm.
Or profit, your board is like giving beyond. They're paying their board dues. They paying for water and chips at the event. They paying for all of this stuff. So when you look at other revenue streams for churches, you have to think, okay, there's certain times of the year where giving it gets really low in church during the summer because people
Mhm.
are going on vacation and they're not at church. Even though you do have online giving, people feel like I'm not at church. I'm turning up, getting the offering this week. And then during the holidays, why? Because people want their turkeys and they want their gifts for their children.
Yep.
So when Nique mentioned having a reserve fund, you have to be really strategic financially to say these, again, if you're not paying attention to those things, you're not looking at data, you're not running reports to see the peaks and the lows of your giving or your donating, you don't know how to build those revenue streams, I mean, those reserve funds to prepare yourself for the low hit. So
Right.
some of the streams of income that you can do, I know churches, you feel like we went live on Sunday, that's enough. Well, think about the people who are not on Facebook. Think
Mhm.
about the people who don't get on YouTube.
Mhm.
I know when my dad was a pastor, people would be running after church to the sound room because they wanted that sermon on CD. You have to think some people are still in their CD era,
Yeah.
are still in their MP3 era where they want to download and they want to take it everywhere with them. Not everyone streams.
Right.
So if you go live on Sunday and you say, oh, it's there, you're not looking at other ways to place your sermons to where people can have them where
Mhm.
they don't want to go on social media. So if we on a social media fast and I didn't deleted the apps off my phone, so how am I supposed to listen to sermons?
Right.
So think of other ways. Another thing is swagware.
Mhm.
Your church have some type of campaign going, or y'all have a slogan that y'all always say that get the people riled up. You can make t-shirts, you can make hats, you can make little tote bags to rep your church, to promote your church. Not only is it a way for income, but it is also a fundraising opportunity for you, but also marketing. Because
Mhm.
people may get there and say, oh, wow, oh, yeah, this from my church. This
Yeah.
is what my pastor is always saying. So when I was living in Houston, attending Church Without Walls, Pastor West would preach, and everybody will say, "Preach past." Well, they have a preach past shirt. So when people want to go in, they gonna yell out "preach past," but they also gonna wear their shirts. So
Mhm.
is it that it can be a marketing tool, and it's also something reflective of your church's culture. And then if your church have a kitchen, but y'all not selling nothing. You got to think if your church starts super early and there's families with children, they may or may not be eating breakfast.
Right.
So there's a way for you to sell some muffins, some coffee, something. Y'all be getting out of church late because y'all in there 4 hours. People famished because they didn't shout it up the carpet. Okay, we got food in the back for you to eat. When I was over the youth department at my dad's church, one of our fundraisers, food people gonna eat, especially if they don't have to cook and they
Mm.
don't have to deal with a lot of people in a restaurant. So our youth department, we had lasagna Sunday. So
Ooh.
while the adults were doing a la carte and charging for everything, I said, no, we gonna make it a combo. We just gonna do it for $5. And I guarantee you with a $5 combo, they're gonna get their lasagna, their salad, and their drink, and they're gonna buy more than one of them. And we always sold out. We left, we never had anything left over. We had enchilada Sunday. We had so many things to where it was like we made money for our department. So utilize your kitchen. If you never use your kitchen, think about ways that you can upgrade it, and you could possibly rent it out for a prep kitchen for somebody who has a food truck or they do catering. Many churches, y'all are only in there on Sundays. Maybe y'all have Bible study. So look at ways that you can use your building as a source of a revenue stream,
Mm-hmm.
whether that is having somebody have church on a Saturday or a Friday, or you are renting out certain rooms during the week to create income. And then events,
Yes.
having events and you're charging a price. Now, not any kind of event. Let's say, for instance, your major events is going to be around Easter and Christmas. Those are your two major productions.
Mm-hmm.
And with this production, you are going to charge tickets, but instead of having it at your church, you may want to have it at a school that has a theater or a place in your city that has a theater. So it can look really official and you're putting on a production.
Yes.
That way people will come. But that's if you have someone who's in creative arts, or again, outsource, work with somebody, partner with your local colleges. You
Yep.
may have some, theater and art students, drama students who would love to participate in your production because that's what they want to be when they grow up. So why not partner with them? And it's the same way for nonprofits. You can use a lot of these
Mm-hmm.
revenue streams as well, as long as the product or service that you are rendering aligns with your mission. It is tax deductible and you won't have to pay the unrelated business tax because y'all supposed to be doing healthy eating nonprofit, but y'all selling barbecue. And y'all keep selling it and it turned into a business. Okay, so now it's not even about a cause for the nonprofit. This is really income. Another, so you may need to start a barbecue business. And with a nonprofit, you can establish a for-profit business if your board agrees, and you can benefit off of the net profit of it. All right. One of the other things you mentioned, okay, the reserve funds again, having knowing when you're going to do these other streams of income to build that reserve fund, because during summer and holiday season is going to dip, so we need to build up our reserve fund so that way we have something. Cost control and reduction. I want you to go through everything that you all are paying for, every subscription,
Free.
bill, and look at what can I cut back on. I knew
Mm-hmm.
one church, they will spend an astronomical amount of money in cell phones until they realized we were paying per minute opposed to getting an unlimited plan.
Mm-hmm.
Or we're paying for all of these phones services like these plug-in jacks because we got all these offices, but we staff, so we don't need that many telephone lines.
Mm-hmm.
Perhaps you get silk flowers opposed to fresh flowers and you won't have to change them out so often. So have
Mm-hmm.
someone to create silk floral arrangements for your pulpit, for your altar, and
Mm-hmm.
put them in a storage, put plastic bags on them to preserve them to where you can take them out by season and you're not frivolously spending. So really, really look at your cost control. A lot of times churches and nonprofits overspend when you plan at the last minute.
Yes.
And when you don't have no budget for your event, your program, or whatever you're doing, you're thinking so much on the final outcome that you didn't even think into the fact that, hey, I need like 10 extension cords. Even if I go to 99-cent store, that's $10. That's $10 that we didn't think about, that at the last minute we have to spend. And
Right.
so there may be things that you're paying for that you could probably reduce the cost, that if you plan ahead, you probably could get in-kind donations where people are donating water and
Mm-hmm.
they're donating chips, and you can get the Costco grant and use those gift cards to buy whatever you need for your event that you're having. But you have to properly plan to say, okay, if we plan well and we look at where we're overspending, we can have some cost control and reduce some things.
Mm-hmm.
Financial transparency. Okay. So for the church, y'all have to stop letting the finance people bully y'all. It may be your mama in the office, your granny, somebody who's been in there for a long time. And it's like y'all are afraid to ask for reports. You are afraid to say, take me to the bank, or I want to see all the financial statements. 2024, y'all have to stop being afraid of the finance person. And I don't know if y'all feel like if I rile them up, they're going to mess up everything. Well, you shouldn't have one person over everything in the first place. You need additional people and you need internal controls to prevent fraud.
Yes.
So if it needs to be two signers on a check over a certain amount of money, if it needs to be a check request process that has to be approved first before any money can be, spent. You have to look at those types of things. Another thing of financial transparency is churches, you have to start doing financial reports and annual report.
Mm-hmm.
But many of you don't do annual reports because you're not using the system to help you produce how much you're spending, your income and your expenses. I know churches where they have givers dinners, givers breakfast, givers lunch, and they're showing this is where your money has been spent. Again, even with you being a church and God has given you this revelation to start this ministry, when you apply to be a nonprofit, especially in your state, you a public charity. There's nothing private. There's nothing that only you can see that nobody else. I know a lot of churches will say, I'm not going to file my tax exemption because I don't want the IRS in my business. They're not going to tell us what we can and cannot preach. Isaiah Richard Sanders don't care nothing about your sermons. He's caring about the money, the money.
Mm-hmm.
So when you look at that, um, and you saying you don't want the IRS in your business, where your local state government already is in your business because you've told them that you are a nonprofit organization in that state. So
Mm-hmm.
the financial transparency is, if a member say, hey, pastor, or a board member or a donor of a nonprofit say, hey, nonprofit, I would like to see the books to see how much have been given towards this project. And I don't know if y'all remember when I was little, the church I attended, they had that red thermometer. And it seemed like that thermometer never went to the top. And I used to be like, dang, it's been 3 years and we never hit the top of the thermometer. That's where financial transparency come in. Because if you're not sharing with your congregation the status of a capital campaign, if
Mm-hmm.
you're not sharing with your constituents, hey, where we are with this project to help 100 kids learn how to read and they can't even recognize then that's an issue.
Yep.
That's an issue. And then compliance and legal requirements. Whatever you don't know, you need to, again, outsource. You need to invest in CFOs that's going to help you financially. If it's other things outside of finances, finding a church attorney that is well versed in knowledge and church compliance that's going to help you, especially when you're getting into things about inappropriate conduct, abuse.
Yep.
And just because you're on the Lord's side and you save and you speak in tongues and you shout and you tear up carpet and know how to prophesy and be in the third heavens when you pray, people still going to jail. Why? Because your ignorance is not enough to tell the IRS to look the other way. Don't send me to jail. There was a case where a little lady, she was a church's finance secretary. They had their heat go out in their church. And the company decided, okay, what we're going to do is gift you. It was $20,000. We'll gift you um, 10,000, so you only have 10,000 to pay. Well, how they did the paperwork and how she wrote the check, the IRS was auditing the heating company. And when they saw that the bill and the check didn't match, they wanted to know where was the other $10,000. That led them to then go and investigate the church and realize they did not have good accounting practices.
Mm-hmm.
They arrested a little old lady and sent her to jail. And the fact is, she wasn't probably purposefully doing anything wrong.
Right.
Just did not have the knowledge and the skill to properly manage the church's finances, which caused a really, really big thing. So, again, the compliance and legal requirements, and then invest in technology. If you have your tax exemption status, there may be software out there that you can get for a little of nothing or for free.
Mm-hmm.
Like we mentioned, QuickBooks.
Yes.
And drop a link in the comments. If you are tax exempt, you can get QuickBooks through TechSoup for either $75 or $106 for the year. And that's all you have to pay. You don't have to pay a monthly subscription because you are a nonprofit. Now, if you don't have your tax exemption, you'll have to pay the monthly fee. And I can drop that in the comments as well if you need it, or you can inbox me. Um, but you need those technologies. If
Mm-hmm.
you're a nonprofit, not only do you need that, but you may need to have a software to manage your programming because your programs are tied to your grant funding and they want to see reports of how well you're performing with this project and program in order for you to keep getting grants, keep getting the funding. And you also use those outcomes when you apply for other grants and get funding. It's so much money and funding out there, but it's unfortunate that nonprofits are not in the position to get these tens of hundreds, if not millions of dollars in grant funding because financially you're not in a space to get it.
Right.
Is your church management system, if you're using one, may have an accounting module where when people give, especially if they're giving online through that church management system,
Mm-hmm.
already kind of reconciling everything because it's all in one platform, your church management site and your accounting. If you're not using one, then you need to really, really get one because not only does it handle your contributions and your accounting, your finance, it's the way you engage your membership and keep them abreast of what's going on in your church. So invest in the technology because it's needed. It's going to help you when you need to print out profit and loss statements,
Yes.
income and expense statements, if you want to look at and see what particular fund, because if you're getting 10 grants, but they're for three different things, you can't be commingling and switching them grants and using grant for one thing on a different total project. So
Right.
you need to be able to assign and tag where these funds, where is it assigned to? So when you run a report and say, hey, the hopscotch project we have, I need to write a report to see all of the disbursements and the income we have for that particular project. Is going to save you a lot of time and it's going to reduce the amount of errors from you going through the checking account, looking at your spreadsheet, or if you still live using one of the little paper ledgers, anything can happen, water spill on it, all of that, and get cloud-based technology. That way you can log in from anywhere, and you can have permissions for certain things. And then the final thing, training and education. If you are outsourcing, great. If you have a finance clerk within your organization or accounts payable,
Mm-hmm.
receivable, allocate in your budget for training and education. Why? Hey, you may want to send them to a class to take. You may want them to, really understand what it is for their role instead of guessing. You
Mm-hmm.
want to be effective and intentional. Let me see if I had anything else that I want to share because you were saying a lot of good stuff and I was writing all over my page. Um, Again, you are a public charity. So if people want to know what's going on with your organization, it's not your money, brother and sister pastor. These are the people giving to the vision.
Yep.
Another thing, executive directors, it's not your nonprofit. You decided that you wanted to provide social services to the community. You don't own the money either. So if your board member says, "Hey, I want to know what's going on with the money," oh, okay, well, I'll tell y'all next time. No, you should be able to say, "Here's what's going on," and you should be including financial reporting in your board of directors meetings, however frequently you meet. You need to be incorporating financial. If your finance person is silent when it comes to money, or if they always telling you we don't have no money, or no before you can even ask. I know a lady, she would say no because they wanted to do communion every Sunday instead of first Sunday, and she told me we ain't got no money. So, like, oh, okay. So don't let the people in the finance office punk y'all to where you're afraid of talking and asking for things. Oh, another thing, look at processing fees.
Yeah.
So for some of you, if you have a church management system, they may have processing fees when they're processing the payment, or they may not. A lot of times churches like to hop on whatever is popular, but that may come at a higher cost. So don't do the bandwagon thing. Make informed decisions to say,
Mhm.
how much are these processing fees going to cost? You may say, oh, well, it's just 2.6% plus 30 cents. But when you add that up over a course of the year,
That's a lot.
look at how much money they're taking out per, contribution, that can add up to a lot. There is one new platform called Zephy. It's a fundraising platform, and they say they have zero processing fees.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see how long that goes, but that's great for, especially if you are a new nonprofit or a smaller church. You probably can't afford for them taking $3 out of the giving, because you need those extra $3 to pay the light bill. So
Right.
that's also part of the, reduction in cost savings, is looking at everything that has processing fees. And if you have duplicate things going on, you don't need two payment processors.
Right.
You have a church management system that does online giving. Get rid of Givelify, get rid of PayPal and whatever else you're using. I was gonna get on Zelle and Cash App, but I'm not gonna do that tonight because it's late where Nique is. It's late where Nique is, because I have a whole sermon planned for Venmo, Zelle, Cash App when it comes to donations in church nonprofits and these events y'all planning. Y'all need to make it easy for y'all team.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm working an event, or I'm working in the finance office or the clerk at the nonprofit, and you got these 10 ways to get money, and I can't get an email or a telephone number to follow up, because January 31st is coming, and you are supposed to send a contribution statement to your donors, letting
Mm-hmm.
them know that you've given this thank you. But who you gonna send it to? If somebody sent you $10,000 today, $5,000 today, and you have no contact information, how are you going to give them a report or a thank you for being a donor?
Mm-hmm.
So I gave y'all a little spiel with that, but I didn't really go in because I have a whole sermon for them. And again, to piggyback off what Nique said about the state solicitation in California, you do have to um, file for the state solicitation. So if you decide, hey, I want to do a fundraiser, or I want to tell people to donate, you are out of compliance if you have not filed that paperwork. So you need to partner with somebody to, or do your Googles, check your Secretary of State or whatever you need to do to see what is it for my state. If I don't care if it's we trying to get a kiddie pool for the summer. The minute you say I'm raising money for,
Mm-hmm.
you need a solicitation. Some states may not have a solicitation requirement, but there are states that do have solicitation. So anywhere where you're soliciting for donations and funds, you need to make sure you fill that out. So I know I was kind of saying that. Anybody else? Y'all have any questions? Any questions? So, Nick, I will say this. What is the first thing that you would recommend? So, let's say, hey, I'm a church. We've been open for 5, 10, 100 years, or I'm a new nonprofit. I want to get on track. I don't want to be raggedy anymore. What would be some of the first things that you can share with them to let them know, hey, this is at least the first step you need to take to get on the right direction?
Oh, the first step. So the first step I would say is get an accounting system. Get that. Like you mentioned, QuickBooks is like $75 with TechSoup for nonprofits and churches. You got to show that exempt status. But yeah, get that. I'm not really like when it comes to churches and nonprofits. QuickBooks is cool.
Mm-hmm.
It's cool.
But
But
Apple's is like made for.
yeah, it's made for, but
Yes.
it's costs a little more. So QuickBooks will do to
Yeah.
start. But once you start growing and growing and getting all these different grants and switch.
And Apple's is really good for some of you where you have an affiliate of churches. And let's say, for instance, they operate interdependently where they have their own identity, but they may need to like report money up to you or give financial information. Apollos have that capability where you can have financial line of sight, because if you are an apostle, bishop, overseer, chief, something over all the churches, and you are bragging numerically that you have X amount of churches, but you're unable to say how viable those churches are financially, if they're spiritually growing, if they're dying, or if they are growing in number as far as attendance and membership, baptisms, conversions. You need to have something. So some church management platforms, they have multi-site plans where we're one church in many locations. And then Aplos also have that capability, but from the accounting to where you're one organization with many churches, and that leader or that leadership at the parent um, level can see how everyone is doing. And that also promotes financial accountability.
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
was also going to say the next thing to do after getting a accounting system, they need to contact you.
Yeah.
You pay the subscription
Make
and
it
link
first.
bank account, and y'all still lost. So in the comments, I pinned how you can connect with Nique and book a discovery call if it's church operations. If you want me to do a financial controls assessment or evaluation to see what do you have in place as far as your financial controls. I always tell organizations, trust the process and not the person.
Hmm.
Why? When you have a ironclad process, like I've been in compliance for like 20 years. I know I look 20, but 20 years in compliance, right? So I have very little room for like gray areas. It's either this or that. What does the law say? Okay, I'm not going against the law. Um, so when you look at certain things, you need to say, okay, what is the requirement and how do I need to manage it? And when it comes to internal controls, I want to trust the process. So if the process is you need to buy something for the youth ministry event, you need to first submit a check request, or we should already know what the budget is because you should have turned in your stuff
Hmm.
at the end of the previous year or at the beginning of the new year on what you planned on doing so you can have proper budget allocation. And so just because you have budget allocation, now you still need to request funds because we need to make sure that we can distribute. Another thing is for internal controls that I had to recommend to a church is um implementing systems, because I got tired of like receiving a check, and because I'm compliant, whatever I don't spend, I'm sending that back to the finance office so y'all can reconcile it. I don't care if it's $2. I'm not keeping that $2 because it's not my $2. I'm giving it back. So one of the things I had did some research and I was like, okay, PEX, which is PX, and I'll put that in the chat as well. It is a way to manage and be in an internal control. So it's like a reloadable card. But I would say first ask your bank if they have reloadable cards. And you can assign each of your ministries one of those cards. And when it's time to do benevolence, food bank, missions, youth, children, okay, this is what's going on this month. We're going to load that card with X amount of dollars for that month. And whatever they don't use, you take it back off. So it's not like they going to having a free for all, spending up everything. That helps with internal controls. It's helping to reduce fraud because people do steal in church. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I know we love to trust people. And I know we won't believe that Brother Dylan would steal from the church, but I know people who was paying their cell phone bills with church money. I know people who was funding a bootleg DVD business with church money. I've seen people do some crazy things with church money. So whenever you have one single person and you've given them full authority and you don't have anybody else or a team of people on the finance committee or finance team, you are giving that person a full-fledged permission to have that godlike complex to where I'm the end all be all. You ain't gonna ask me for nothing. I'm gonna tell you we don't got it. And half time church may not have it because they didn't spent it somewhere else. I've seen and witnessed people kite checks, meaning they were supposed to close one account. They open a new church account and they was writing one check to the other account and another check back to the other account. So it's like money was never there. Why? Because they were kiting checks back and forth. You need internal controls, and you also need to have audits. So, like inviting Nique to audit your church financial records. You need to have solid reporting mechanisms, and they cannot miss reporting. So, if you meet monthly, meet quarterly, you should have a monthly report anyway, and they should give you a full detailed presentation if you meet quarterly so you can look at everything. But do not let people be the Lone Ranger in your church and your nonprofit. If your executive director or the founder is treating the money like it's theirs and they won't ever give y'all, as a board member, whether you're a church or a nonprofit or community-based organization, you have a fiduciary responsibility to maintain integrity, to ensure that the organization fulfills the mission, and to have proper oversight over the money, and ensure there's no conflicts of interest. So if the founder is doing something crazy with the money and y'all the board, y'all in trouble too. Because why aren't anybody asking questions?
Mm-hmm.
Don't be afraid to ask questions. Why? You are a board member. You have fiduciary responsibility for oversight, and you want to make sure this mission in this community in this part of the city you're doing well. So hey, we need reports, and if they can't give them to you, okay, we need to outsource this to Nique and have her to be our bookkeeper. That way she can send us a report to the board and we know what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you don't know what's going on, you can't get funding. Because those grantors, they're going to be all in your business. The more money you're seeking, the more scrutiny the application process is and the reporting process. And if you can't really, tell them 1, 2, 3 ABC, there's no way you're going to be able to manage 100,000 or $1 million grant if it's hard for you to manage a $30,000 budget at a church, small church, or an organization. I know I was running my mouth. Anybody have any questions? Y'all can also inbox me. Nique, let them know what is the CFO Associates Facebook page if they want to follow.
It's CFO and Associates.
Okay, so look up CFO and Associates
And just like that.
page. That way you can stay connected. She's also on Instagram, and I'll be like, let me stick to one account to message her because I'm either messaging her for my private one or the business one. And I'm like, let me stick to one and send her a message. So I want to make sure that in 2024,
mm-hmm.
that as we say on wanting more in 2024, yes, we want more, but are we going to be good stewards of the more? We
Mhm.
want God to enlarge our territory. We want these new opportunities. I hear the declarations, raises and benefits, bonuses, and this, but are we good stewards of it? When people are giving to your church because they believe in your mission, they want to support, their tithing because, biblically they want to give, but are you being a good steward of it? Are you having cash reserves? Because we know the older the building is, and if it hasn't been, upgoing maintenance, you're going to run into problems. If it's a new building and they just threw it up in 24 hours, you may have some problems because the structure may be a little faulty how fast they put it up. So
Mhm.
having those reserves, you really, really hit the nail on the head. The reserves really important. So make sure that you pay attention to your giving patterns.
Mhm.
Look at the fluctuation, not at the number of people who's in your congregation, because I've seen people with 30 members give more than a church with 200.
Yep.
Don't look at the numeric number of the people in your congregation, but pay attention to the giving patterns. When are people giving?
Mm.
Why did we drastically stop receiving giving? There was one church in Detroit, their giving had dropped significantly and they didn't know what was going on, until they just asked the church, hey, what's going on? Well, around that city, a lot of people had gotten laid off. So
Mm.
it was the fact that there was no income coming to the church because people did not have any money to give. They were unemployed, but they were still showing up to church, believing and praying that God was going to bless them with a job. And
Mm.
so they went on, it's called Arise. It's an Arise platform. I need to look at the full website so y'all won't be clicking on no website that's not it. Arise is a customer service platform where you can start your own call center business. Um,
Mhm.
California, that we not on the list to have that, but states, make sure see if your state is part of that. So what they did was they joined the Arise platform
Mhm.
and they started hiring the people who needed jobs. And the the giving increased. Why? Because now people had jobs, they were happy. And so here the church, what they did was not only meet a need,
Mhm.
but they also created a business that increased their additional stream of income. They created a for-profit business. So it helps to help them with additional stream of income, but it also met a need. So yeah, you can touch and agree with me, and you can believe God for greater that I'm gonna get a job. However, what resources are you directing people to? If you are in a city where it's high crime, high unemployment, and you talking about Lord, where the money? Okay, are you investing and allocating in your budget marketing dollars to go outside of a certain radius, or meeting the need and creating resources for them? Perhaps your church needs to start a CDC, a community development center, a nonprofit, another nonprofit arm of the church, where it's like, hey, it's high crime and it's high unemployment. So we're going to create an organization where we're going to help you to get jobs, to have, anti-violence programs. And what does that do? If you do it right, that's income for your church still. Why? Because you have a nonprofit and you're getting funding to meet the need. But if you haven't managed your church's stuff together and got that budget together, there's no way you're going to be able to effectively do that for a CDC
Mhm.
unless you totally hire other people to manage it. Because with that CDC, if they're using your church facility, you can charge them for rent.
Yep.
So you need to know financial strategies of what to do and how to do and who do I need. I need somebody like Nique because math is not my strong thing. So I need somebody to help me and break it down to where I understand. Or we have somebody who's good with money, they're in a finance office, but we don't know how to operationalize that to where We love her. We're not saying we don't trust her, but we want internal controls and we want our other ministries to operate under the budget. How do we do that? That's where the two of us comes in to help you all with that.
Yep.
So thing you do is get an accounting software. I agree. Apple's quick people are just more familiar with QuickBooks because of the name and that brand identity. But Aplos was created for churches and nonprofits because the founder of it sat on boards and was an associate pastor of a church. So he gets and understand the need for this type of accounting and
Mm-hmm.
bookkeeping for churches and nonprofits.
Yep.
Um, I'm trying to see what else. Anybody have any questions? You put them in the chat. All right. Well, hopefully y'all was blessed by this.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully you take some things back to your leadership. Again, the links are in the comments for you to book sessions with either one of us. Um, get the link and send it to them. We are our 412 training group. Um, or if you do at 412 training and the search on YouTube will come up. You can share the YouTube link in case they don't have Facebook, but you can share this information with your leadership to say, hey, we can't continue doing ministry like this. We're
Mm-hmm.
God for greater and we got faith and we're pushing people to give, but we aren't organized in the financial structure. I know many of you all want to do capital campaigns, but you don't even know how much money you need. You may be under bidding saying, "Oh, we're trying to raise 50,000 and you really need 150,000
Mm-hmm.
for your church just because of the state that your church is in, whether it's the building or you want to improve technology. If
Mm-hmm.
you're in a high crime area, you may want to improve security. So it's a number of things. And for nonprofits, that budget is really important because when you go and try to look for funding, are you trying to get funding for your operational budget, for operational funds, or for a program? So there are people who would give you money for your operations, but you need to have a budget and you just can't throw any kind of number.
Exactly.
There was one there was one grant, and when I tell you they were so detailed, they didn't it wasn't going to work that you said my budget 50,000. They wanted you to itemize for each item
Ooh.
what the item was and how much. And I said, oh boy, I know people probably don't even apply for this grant because if
Mm-hmm.
you don't know, you'll say, oh, this is too much, and you just leave it and walk away. Meanwhile, you probably have the program and probably will get the funding. And most grants, when there's not a lot of people who apply, that one person who did apply, who got their stuff together, they end up getting all the money.
Mm-hmm.
And they end up getting continuous grants because everybody is afraid to apply for it. So if you want God to help you, you want greater, you want to serve your community, you want to operate. I know we say excellence, but for a lot of churches, that's optical, that's not functional administratively or operational. Then you need to get people on your team. Again, outsource. Outsourcing, getting coaches, consultants helps you to achieve your goals faster. Because if you don't know how to do it, it's only so much Google and YouTube gonna help you if you don't understand the fundamentals. And that's not your strength. So
Mm-hmm.
although I know the concept of finance and budgeting, I'm not a CPA or an accountant. So I have to partner with Nique to say, hey, handle the heavyweight because I don't know that.
Yeah. I told you.
Because I don't know that. So we'll be establishing a nonprofit, and I'm not going to try to do the finance part of the nonprofit. I'm going to outsource it to Nique because I would rather lay the foundation early so I can be prepared to apply for these grants I'm seeing with the programs that I have. So don't be afraid to outsource. lay your pride aside, and be open
And
to
honest.
people to help you.
Open and honest, because
Yes. Be open and honest. Just I don't know. Okay, you don't know. That's okay. We're gonna get to the bottom of it. I'd rather for you to say I don't know than do smoke screens. Because that then the person who's helping you, they have to do a lot of digging and spending a lot of unnecessary time trying to investigate when you could have just been transparent and let them know the deficiencies or the weaknesses. Nique, is there anything else that you want to share?
um oh, Google has a grant. Google has the $10,000 a month grant for marketing. I know a lot of people are like, oh, I need some type of grant that would help to get
Mhm.
the message out there about your organization. So definitely look into that.
Yes. And like you just mentioned, that grants don't always have to come monetarily. It could be something that you would probably pay a firm $10,000 for marketing, but Google is giving you a $10,000 grant. Or if you're tax exempt, you can get Microsoft for
Mm-hmm.
free, opposed to paying, an astronomical amount of money. And seeing church at Church on the Hill at Gmail, and then the women's department got Church on the Hill Women at Gmail, but y'all accounts not linked together. So when Sister Janice lead the church, she took her in the email with her, and now y'all jacked up. So you don't want that for the finance department.
Mm-hmm.
You really don't. You need every password. You need access to every Google, every OneDrive. You
Mm-hmm.
need access to every single thing, because if they decide they want to be disgruntled and leave, guess what? They gonna burn the whole ship down. They
Mm-hmm.
gonna lock stuff to where you can't get into it. I've seen it with a major mega church. They got a new pastor. They kicked him out for some egregious things, and he had access to all of the social media platforms, and he locked everybody out. And that social media page they had from the start for 15 years, they had to start over and get a new social media account. Do you know how painful that is? So even when it's the pastor, they can get disgruntled and upset too. So always make sure that you have a team of people that have access, where you're able to change passwords, where you're able to go in and make some changes immediately. And again, especially when it comes to finances.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So I have a couple announcements for y'all. Again, I have it in the chat, but CFO and Associates, this is the website to connect with Nique. So that way she can get you started on the right track. Even if you just call her and say, this is what's going on, what do I need to do? You need that guidance. And then don't say, okay, well, I'm gonna figure it out on my own. That's why you went to her in the first place. Hire her so she can get you on the right track. She does, you still do a fractional CFO?
Yes.
So fractional CFO, hey, I'm going to outsource my CFO position to Nique, and she's going to manage all of that for me because I can't do it. That's what I'm going to do for my nonprofit. So I'm just letting her know that that's the second announcement I have is let's talk about taxes. Again, we are a training group. So this year we are going to do more with educating the public with these free webinars, in addition to other workshops and our private community that we're developing. We're going to talk about taxes because I know y'all saying more for 2024. I'm saying scam no more in 2024. Scamming has messed up a lot
Who?
of stuff. Okay, renting cars, trying to move, trying to buy house. It's so many things. And one of the things the saints, y'all be wanting to increase, but y'all be cheating and lying on y'all taxes and praying for grace.
Mm-hmm.
So we are doing Let's Talk About Taxes with Melinda Moore. She's the founder of CAMS Tax Services. That's going to be on Saturday morning. So if you just rolling over, getting the crust out of your eyes, just listen. If you're out and about in your day, you can just listen to it and then also watch the replay. We want to talk about, this is the month of talking about finances.
Mm-hmm.
Again, If you are a nonprofit organization, you have until the January 31st. January 31st is the date that you need to send contribution statements out to those who have donated to your organization. So God bless y'all who have used Zelle, Venmo, Cash App, whatever else y'all using, PayPal, and it's all over the place and y'all don't have contact information. Y'all gonna have to figure it out. Fundamentals of sermon preparation. If
Ooh.
you believe God has called you to preach the gospel of Jesus Christ, if you believe that God has gifted you to teach, I highly, highly recommend you to register for the fundamentals of sermon preparation. The facilitators are the wonderful Deborah Bell and Reverend Melvin McGlenn. They were our guests during our Her Voice Proclaims event in October. I think this week I'm going to post a link of their session so you can kind of get an idea, get your wet your whistle a little bit, so that can help you make the decision to register for this course. So if you need help with sermon prep, hey, Pastor, if you don't have a formal MIT program at your church and you want your ministers to understand the fundamentals of sermon preparation, please register. I'll also, once this is over, I'll put the link to the website in the comments, or you can just watch the replay. These are highly educated and experienced women who can help you get where you need to be to properly sermon prep and preach the word of God. And then we have Pastor DeAntoinette Robinson of Holy Land Church of God in Christ in San Bernardino, California. Her sister's ministry, they are having their girlfriend getaway retreat weekend in Indian Wells, California. So if you've been in the Palm Springs area, that is where it'll be. It's going to be September 20th through the 22nd. If you want to attend, you say, hey, I'm out of town, fly in. You can fly in um, to John Wayne. You can fly into Ontario, LAX if you don't mind driving that far distance. They have a few VIP tickets available. So I encourage you, if you are in the California area, whether you're in LA County, the Inland Empire, if you are living close near on the border of Vegas, you can drive to Indian Wells and attend the girlfriend getaway. All right, those are our evening announcements. Govern yourselves accordingly, like I say at church. Anybody else have any questions? Nique, you have any final parting words?
No, just get those finances in order.
Please do. I want everyone to be prosperous and compliant.
Yes.
Prosperous and compliant, because when you are compliant, then you can really reap the benefits of the abundance because it's on good soil. You're not watching over your shoulder. And when people see that you are compliant, they don't mind giving more.
Yeah, that's true.
You're welcome, Pastor D. Pastor D is in the comments. That is her retreat that she has coming up. Hey, Pastor D. All right. So I pray you all have a wonderful evening. Again, get your finances in order, whether it's for your church, your nonprofit, your LLC, whatever you're doing, making sure that it's in, you are an independent contractor, a sole proprietor. Get it in order, because the IRS is having a lot of things in store for everybody because of the scamming that occurred over the past few years. And
Yeah.
you don't want to get caught up in that. I want to be when the IRS say, knock, knock. I want to say, here, who's there? Here you go. I don't want nothing. And oh, Lord, here they come. No, I want to give you everything that you need. So I pray that you all were blessed by this, that you connect with Nique. If you have operational questions, that you click the link and you can connect with me. And we will pray for you that you have a wonderful weekend. All right. Have a nice evening, everybody.
Guys.